We're on chapter 40, which is called Helping Each Other Feel Safe. Yeah. So in case you feel endangered sitting here in this room, this hopefully will help. But before we start, let's just take a couple of minutes to settle the mind. So come back to our breath, let the mind settle. We'll cultivate a motivation and then proceed. And so let's cultivate our motivation. And since we are exploring how to have an open-hearted life, we should do that with an open heart. And one of the qualities of an open heart is compassion, wishing self and others to be free of all forms of dukkha or undesirable experiences in samsara. So we're not learning how to have an open-hearted life for our own benefit alone, but recognizing that we are inextricably involved and dependent and related to every other living being. Then we cultivate an attitude wishing everybody well and wishing everybody to be free of suffering. And then to make that actually come about, to make that more than simply a wish, we form a very deep determination to become a fully awakened Buddha. So we will have the wisdom and compassion and skillful means to really be of benefit, great benefit, to all other living beings. So cultivate that as the motivation for listening to the Dharma this morning, and as the motivation for your whole life. So the chapter we're on, chapter 40, is a chapter that Russell wrote, because I wrote some of the chapters, he wrote others of the chapters. So I will try and do it justice, and I might tweak a little bit here and there. I'm sure if he teaches the book, he tweaks what I say too. But we remarkably come to the same point so often, and it was really a delight to do this book with him. Okay, so it's helping each other feel safe. So earlier on in the book, we discussed 3 types of emotion, each of which exists for a specific purpose. So this is a psychological way of dividing emotions. So we discussed the threat response, which mobilizes emotions like anger and fear to protect us when we perceive danger. That's the first one. Actually, Who likes that as the first one? I'd rather put that one at the end of the list. Okay, I don't want to have my first reaction to people, suspicion, and, are they going to harm me? Okay, then the second one is, okay, then the second one is the drive response, which excites us and motivates us towards pursuing our goals. That one's a little bit better, but it could also be quite involved in self-centeredness. Yeah, my goals, what benefits me. Okay. And then the third type of emotional response, which we call safeness, involves feeling content, peaceful, and most importantly, safe. So that one's better too. Okay. Although sometimes we can fall into just thinking about our own safety and forgetting about others. Yeah. So all of these we have to expand, I think. So experiencing safeness is important if we're to feel and act with compassion. Helping ourselves and others to be at our best begins with helping all of us feel safe. And, when everybody feels safe, we all get along much better, don't we? Yeah, we aren't projecting all sorts of junk on each other. We aren't inventing wild stories of how people don't like us and they're going to ruin our reputation and, this kind of thing. Yeah, that they're cheating us out of the presidency and everything else. Okay, so, there's more of a feeling of trust when we feel safe. Okay, when we feel safe, we're able to think more clearly and flexibly. We're less likely to act impulsively or hurtfully. That's true. And we're more likely to help others. Yeah, because we have more space in our mind when we feel safe. And so naturally then that our mental intention can go to others and to serving them and benefiting them. In contrast, when we feel threatened, our mental resources are focused on what is bothering us. Me, the most important one in the universe, and what's happening to me. Okay. So whether it's a wasp flying around, there's so many problems in the universe, but one wasp flying around me and I feel threatened and, all of a sudden my attention narrows and all other living beings except me and the wasp are obliterated from my attention. Yeah. Okay. In contrast, when we feel threatened, our mental resources are focused on what is bothering us. This keeps us locked into feelings of threat, which makes it harder to focus on helping others. Okay, so, when we feel threatened, then we make more stories about how terrible the threat is and all the possible harmful things that could come to us. And then we feel even more threatened and more fear and more suspicion. And then that causes us to make up more stories about how more people are out to get us. Okay. And then, so it's a cycle, it's a loop. Yeah, here. And it just keeps feeding itself. And we get completely immobilized. And by this situation that we think is real. Whereas most likely, most of it is our storytelling. But we can't recognize it as storytelling. It feels so real. We are so sure that our thoughts are the reality of the situation. Yeah, it's really amazing, when you start to look at your own mind and how it functions, how much we cause ourselves suffering by the thoughts and concepts that we have. Yeah, it's really shocking and really sorrowful. Yeah. And we think it's all very real. And when somebody comes up and says, actually, you're okay, nobody's going to hurt you, we can't take in what they're saying. Because in our perspective, we feel threat all around. Yeah, you ever been in that state? Sometimes it could be feeling physical threat. Sometimes it could just, we're projecting this story that, everybody hates us, nobody wants to talk to us, or the people we love the most are all of a sudden en masse at the click of something, they're all going to walk away and never speak to us again, and we're going to be left alone. And we create stories like that, don't we? I mean, I'm exaggerating, but not exaggerating. Yeah. And then, of course, when we create that kind of story, we pick out things that in our situation that we think will support that story. Okay? So we become very suspicious of other people. Now, all of a sudden, two people are just talking to each other, and they're not just talking to each other. They are talking about me, and they're saying bad things about me. Okay, what evidence do we have for that? Just that they're talking to each other, which is no evidence at all, is it? So remember a moment when you've been at your best. Yeah, Russell starts things off like, when you've been at your best. I start off with, look at all these ridiculous stories we tell each other. Okay, so remember a moment when you've been at your best. Were you spending a lot of time evaluating what you were doing? Am I doing this okay? Or am I not doing it? Well, am I going to get a good grade, a good review? Okay. So are you spending time evaluating what you are doing and how well you are doing it? Or were you just doing it without all this worry in the back of the mind about how am I doing and what are other people going to think about me? You're just doing it because you enjoy doing it. Okay. So if you were just doing it, this is probably because you felt safe. When we feel safe and comfortable, it is easier to let go of the tendency to self-evaluate and simply focus at the task at hand. Okay. Now, when he says the tendency to self-evaluate, it isn't just to self-evaluate. It's to evaluate ourselves as worse than what we want to be, as worse than other people want us to be, as the worst one in the universe. Okay, most of us do that. Okay, it's like, I'm just not up to par. Or, sometimes we self-evaluate and I'm the best one. Yeah, but that usually gets knocked out of us pretty easily. And then we flip-flop to the other extreme of I'm the worst one. Okay? And it just that way of thinking just messes everything up. Yeah, because we can't be at ease. We can't just do something. We can't just appreciate it. There's always this, well, how am I ranking up to my own expectations or to other people's expectations that I've bought into. Okay. Completely present with what we're doing. This is when we aren't self-evaluating. We see what needs to be done and can focus on doing it. How do we get to this place, and how do we help others get there? Mm-hmm. So now, when there's just all this all these thoughts that go behind something. Someone asks you to do the dishes, and we can't just do the dishes and enjoy it. We have to step back and, well, are they asking me to do the dishes more than they ask other people to do the dishes? Yes, that's not fair. I'm being persecuted and made to wash the dishes more than other people. Yeah, and that's assuming that washing dishes is this horrible, terribly difficult, sinful, painful activity that nobody in their right mind wants to be involved in. We'd much rather have a dirty kitchen than wash the dishes when it's not our turn. Our ability to feel safe, comfortable, and at peace is intimately linked with feeling connected to others. And that's true, isn't it? When we feel a positive connection with others, we are much more relaxed. Yeah. When our mind is suspicious, uncomfortable, then we don't feel that connection. Yeah. We don't feel safe. We're not quite sure what we fear will happen, but it's not something good. I mean, if I go into a room where I don't know anybody, this happens a lot to me, actually. I travel, I go into rooms full of people coming who expect me to say something brilliant. I don't know any of them. I'm just walking in, to a group of people who are all staring at me with their own expectations. Yeah. And so I can get like, oh dear, this is awful. They're all out to get me. They're going to criticize me. Not just after the talk, but in the middle of the talk. And somebody did that once at Elliott Bay Bookstore. Really? Were any of you there? You were there? Somebody stood up in the middle of the talk. She raised her hand, and I said yes. And she said, what you're teaching is not the Buddha's teaching. I belong to such and such a tradition, and this is not what we practice. It is not what we teach. You've got it all wrong. And she said, there's a whole audience in Elliott Bay Bookstore in Seattle. And she stands up and says this. Yeah. So I could have fainted on the spot. Yeah. But, that wasn't, I didn't feel so good about doing that. So I just said, thank you very much for your comment. What else could I say? I wasn't going to get it into a debate with her, in front of all these people and be defensive and da-da-da-da-da. I just said, thank you for your comment. And then after the talk, a lot of people came up to me and they said, oh, you handled that really well. Yeah. And I'm going, well, it beats fainting. and so I was able to finish the talk. I couldn't just walk out in the middle because somebody criticized me. Goodness. And then the book was working with anger. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we're responsive to what we think others feel about us and how they behave towards us. Yeah, we are responsive to that. And that's something that creates a lot of misery for us. Yeah? If we can remain responsive to what others think and feel with an equal mind, knowing that this is their thoughts and their feelings, then that's fine. But when we say what they're thinking and feeling about me, yeah, then it shifts the whole thing, and we don't feel quite as safe because we're quite apprehensive about what other people think about us, as if what other people think about us is objective reality for the whole universe. Yeah? Is what other people think about us an objective reality that everybody should believe? Yeah, it's not. It's just other people's ideas. It's not the reality of who we are. It's just their ideas. And yet, if somebody thinks badly of us, we either get angry because how dare they think badly of me, I'm wonderful, or we believe them and then we just get depressed. And it's just their thought. Yeah, somebody else's thought. What is somebody else's thought? Yeah. When you have a thought, what is your thought? Yeah. Are all your thoughts true? Or are they just passing mental events or images? Yeah. Similar with other people's thoughts. Are they all true, or are they're just passing stuff? Yeah. You can solidify them. And we're watching in this country what is happening when people are solidifying their own thoughts. Because their thoughts are no longer conspiracy theories, they are reality. Just as we think our thoughts are not just thoughts, yeah, they are objectively true. Yeah. And then where does that lead us? It leads us to not get along with each other. And it all comes from the mind. There's nothing there. Yeah, there's nothing there. There's a human being there. As soon as we hear, oh, they're from this political party or this religion or this part of the country or this, that, or whatever, then we know who they are. We've never said a word to them. We know nothing about them except, a little data. But now we've put them in a box. Yeah. And if their box isn't my box, then I don't feel comfortable around them. Yeah. Whereas if we just saw, oh, there's another human being. They're just like me. They want to be happy. They don't want to suffer. Then automatically we feel connected to them. No matter their politics, religion, race, whatever. Okay. So do you see how it just depends on how we're looking at the situation? If we think other people are looking down on us or judging us, then what? We feel threatened. Notice he said, if we think they are looking down on us or judging us. He didn't say if they are looking down on us or judging us, because we don't know if they're doing that. All we know is that we think they are doing that. But again, we believe that all of our thoughts are true. So if we think that they're looking down and judging me, well, they must be. I don't bother asking them what they're thinking or feeling, because suddenly I have clairvoyant power and I can read everybody else's motivation. How about that? Yeah? Do you ever do that? We become mind readers, don't we? I know that they looked at me like that because da 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 da. On the other hand, if we perceive that others accept us, support us in our struggles, and will assist us if we really need it, this helps us to gain confidence to address the sources of stress in our lives. So that's very true. Yeah. The thing is, if we rely on other people to make us feel safe, then we're giving our power away. They have to behave in a certain way for me to feel safe. What we need to cultivate is the ability to make ourselves feel safe. Okay. Nobody teaches us this. Yeah. We learn how to project motivations, intentions on other people. But nobody teaches us how to feel safe ourselves. So I've discovered something, yeah? And I say I've discovered it, I'm sure many people know this. But when things were happening in Afghanistan, and the winters were very cold, and people didn't have places to live, I was reading about it and reading about families sleeping in tents and waking up and the children being frozen and having died at night. So that really touched me. So when I went to bed at night, I started thinking, as part of my practice of love and compassion, I started imagining all those children wrapped in warm blankets, being held and protected by their parents, And it made me think, when you imagine somebody else like that, then you generate that same kind of feeling in yourself. So I just wished all those children, infants to, bigger children, just warm, cozy, protected, with full bellies, going to sleep and just feeling safe and feeling loved and feeling protected. And as I imagined and envisioned these kids in Afghanistan feeling like that, I noticed that I started feeling like that. Yeah. And it opened the door for me to see that whatever I wish for other people, I start to feel myself. So if I wish other people to feel safe and I imagine them feeling safe, I start feeling safe. Because that feeling of safety exists within me already. I just need to make it manifest. Yeah. It's not so much that other people make me feel safe as I can bring up that feeling of safeness in myself. Yeah. The same, I discovered, is with feeling loved. We so much rely on other people to tell us how wonderful we are, how much they love us, all these kinds of things. And then when other people behave in a certain way or speak in a certain way, then we feel loved. And when they don't, then we don't feel loved. But again, we're giving the power over what we feel to other people and expecting them to make us feel loved. Yeah. And what I discovered is if I sit there and bring up a feeling of love towards other people, not just for family and friends, but also love, which in Buddhism is the wish for others to have happiness in its causes. If I bring up a sense of love, wishing others well, and imagining, extending that love towards them and them receiving it, then automatically I feel loved. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And it reminded me of what Mother Teresa said, or at least what's attributed to her, when she says, when I need love, give me somebody to love. Yeah, when I need support, give me someone to support. So her whole way of thinking is how to give a certain feeling to others. But I think she must have realized that we feel that way ourselves when we give that feeling to others. Yeah. So this little meditation that I do before I go to bed, it's just really nice. It ends the day in a really nice way. Yeah. And I do it when I'm lying down. I'm not sitting in meditation position like this. Yeah. Okay. There is a large body of psychological research showing that supportive, nurturing relationships help us to feel safe and better manage difficult emotions and situations. Such interactions help us manage feelings of threat and can be observed in the workings of our brains. Yeah, Russell always likes to refer to our brains. I don't refer to our brains so much, except as accumulations of atoms and molecules. Yeah. Anyway, in the workings of our brains. So compassionate interactions lead to the release of chemicals in the brain, such as oxytocin. Oxytocin. Oxytocin is the one you don't want to have, right? Okay. So oxytocin, which are involved with feeling safe and connected with others. Chemicals which help reduce threat-based feelings like fear by acting on the parts of the brain that produce these emotions. Yeah, this is, he's a scientist, so he thinks that the chemicals in the brain are what cause us to feel different things. That's okay. Yeah, we're still friends. He looks at me and says, "You believe in rebirth?" Yes, I believe in rebirth, don't you? Yeah. So supportive relationships even help grow the parts of our brains involved in managing difficult emotions and social situations. Wow, you can grow your brain. So cultivating compassion in ourselves helps us create feelings of safeness and peace in other people as well. Feeling safe and supported, we are less likely to focus totally on ourselves and on trying to spot potential threats, and we're more likely to care for and about others. So this reminds me of His Holiness, who says, whenever I meet people, I regard them as friends. So his basic MO in meeting people is they are my friends. So he greets everybody as a friend. Yeah. When you've trained your mind to see everybody as a friend, are you going to feel threatened by these people when you meet new people? No. Are you going to present yourself in a threatening way to these people because you feel threatened by them and you want to threaten them before they can harm you? No, we're not going to do that either. Yeah, you're my friend, so I'm friendly. How do other people respond when people are friendly? They respond in the same way. Yeah. If you have to go into an office and get something done, or you're on the phone because you have to return something, and if you're cranky and like, yeah, this company, always, woo-hoo, the poor person on the other side, and they're not going to be inclined to help you. If you call or you go in and you say, can you help me? And you have a friendly expression, wow, people want to do just that. People like to be asked to help. Yeah. Before or as we were purchasing the property here, back in 2003, I was working with a lawyer in Boise because I knew nothing about this kind of stuff. So she was walking me through it. And she said, when you want to build, go to the county offices, because she said in your area of the state, everybody, people are quite conservative or libertarian. They don't like the government. They try and, do things without getting permits and so on and so forth, because they just don't like the government leaning over their shoulder. She said, if you go in to the county offices and you say, we want to do this, can you help us? Then they will be delighted to help you. So that was really good advice, because when we did it, the first time we did it, it was on a Friday afternoon. I went into the health department. Okay, health department is usually one of the very picky departments, yeah, with the regs that you have to fill. And so Jim Sayer, who later became one of our friends, but he was there. It was a Friday afternoon. And we started saying, we're going to want to build, and will you help us and tell us kind of what we need? And Jim smiled and he said yes, and he talked to us about this and that and the other thing. And later on, when he came out here and we had to dig holes for the septic system, he had the guy dig a couple of holes, and then he said, this is great soil, don't have to dig anymore, gave us the permit, and then he became a friend. And and that was just because we were friendly and said, can you help us? Because he was telling us that often in his job, when he went to check, on septic systems and health things in other places, he usually wore a bulletproof vest. I was shocked, but that's the danger he felt from, the attitude of some people here. So, so I just realized, just going in and saying, we want to cooperate. Tell us what we need to do. These people are so used to people saying, we don't want to see you, get off our property, we're going to do what we want. These people were so happy to help us. Yeah. So it pays. Yeah. It pays, in human relationships just to be kind and to go in and assume the best from somebody instead of assuming the worst. We had a situation where some of our nuns, somebody last year that knows everything, we lost a year with COVID, so it must have been 2 or 3 years ago. Somebody got killed in a skirmish outside of a bar in Idaho. And we were contacted to do prayers for him. And so some of our people did that and so on. And he had a lot of friends who were bikers. Okay. Now, bikers, yes. Bikers. Yeah. I grew up outside of Los Angeles, where the Hells Angels were the epitome of bikers. So one afternoon, this one biker rode up unexpectedly, on his very fancy motorcycle with his hair and his beard. And I'm like, yeah. And then I thought, oh, yeah. And then he said, I'm a friend of so-and-so. And we raised some money for the Abbey. We really appreciate you doing prayers for him. I realized, throw out my image of the Hells Angels. I should not project it on this guy. And my whole image of bikers changed. Yeah. So, how we greet people it makes a big difference. Yeah, I mean, when he rode up, I couldn't go like, "Are you Hell's Angels? Get the hell out of here!" So I smiled at him, and a few other nuns were there. Venerable Thubten was there. Yeah, she's all of, 99 pounds, but she was going to defend me against the Hell's Angels. Yeah. So, it's really interesting. And then when I was on the board of Youth Emergency Services in Newport, we were discussing, some fundraising. And one woman who, she was like, I don't know, in her 60s, and she just looked, like a older, middle-aged kind of woman. Mm-hmm. And then it turns out she's a biker. And she was saying that the bikers have events in Ponderay County, and they could do an event to raise money for youth emergency services. And I'm going, oh my God, she's a biker? She doesn't look like the bikers that, like what I think of. So, okay, another stereotype out the window. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. Have to laugh at ourselves sometimes. Okay. When we stop comparing ourselves to others and instead see ourselves as connected to them, we understand that taking care of them and taking care of ourselves is the same thing. This is important. It's not either or. Yeah, when we take care of ourselves, we take care of others. When we take care of others, it has a good effect on us. Our efforts are supported by the kindness of others. When other people treat us with kindness, they provide us with a model that encourages us to do the same in our own interactions. So this old lady who's the biker, really encouraged me to be more friendly. Yeah. Similarly, when we help others feel accepted and safe, we help them extend their own kindness to others. In this way, our kindness is multiplied. So when we approach people with an attitude of kindness, with an attitude of wanting them to feel safe, of wanting them to know that they're around people who are open-minded, who are accepting, who aren't going to judge and criticize them. If we just approach people like that, they pick up on that and they feel safe. Yeah? And then that influences how they react to us, which again influences how we react to them, and so on. This also benefits us in some very direct ways. A growing body of research shows that taking care of others and engaging in altruistic behavior is good for our physical and mental health. The Buddha said that 2,000 years before they started investing thousands of dollars to have a growing body of research. Yeah. But it's good that people research this, because some people trust science more than anything else. When it comes to vaccines, I certainly trust them. Yeah. So, yeah, it's good. It helps people. When one study showed that providing social support to others was linked with a lower risk of mortality in older adults. I remember seeing a documentary once where they took kids from the youth authority, kids who had been busted when they were under 18 and imprisoned in the youth authority. They don't call it that when you're a kid, but basically that's what's happening. And they had a program whereby these kids took care of some people who were disabled, and, helped them get to appointments or wheeled them in their wheelchair or whatever. And the change in these kids from engaging in doing something helpful to somebody else was really remarkable, because they started feeling a sense of purpose in their lives. And of course, the people that they were helping were so grateful that these kids, who usually felt threatened, they came from very difficult neighborhoods and upbringings, started feeling safe and relaxing and feeling happy and smiling. Quite remarkable. Yeah. We all struggle sometimes. When others experience difficulties, we can offer them support and encouragement. We can treat them with respect and dignity. We come to understand ourselves in part through the ways in which others treat us. So when we treat other people with kindness and respect, we are sending the message that they are worthy of kindness and respect. When they are at their lowest, we can show them they are valuable human beings. Yeah? So it doesn't take a lot of effort to do that. Yeah. Doesn't take a lot of effort just to smile at somebody, to respect them. Yeah. Just showing basic respect. I'm always startled when I go into prisons, because I treat the guys that I meet in prisons. I do prison work, as do many people at the Abbey. But when I go in, I treat them just like I treat everybody else, because I know that getting arrested depends on multiple causes and conditions. And especially for people in minorities, they get arrested, who are minorities, they get arrested for things that white people don't get arrested for. Yeah, so I just go in and I talk to them like I talk to everybody else. And it makes a really big difference, because there are usually people who are not used to being talked to as if they were worthy of respect. Certainly in prison, the guards don't treat them that way. The staff doesn't treat them that way. Yeah. Usually the other prisoners don't. Yeah. So one person who goes in and just says, "Hi, how are you?" Or we, in a discussion group says, "What do you think about this idea?" Yeah, and ask them for their opinion. All of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm worthy, I'm worthwhile, I'm a valuable human being. It doesn't take a lot for us to help people like that. Oh, that's his next sentence. It doesn't take much. A brief visit, conversation, phone call, or text can make a world of difference. You are in my thoughts. I can see how hard this is for you. I am here if you need me. These brief messages remind us we are cared for, liked, and valued. Even a kind smile or a brief pat on the shoulder can speak volumes. And that's really true. Yeah. We don't have to do fancy stuff to let people know they're worthwhile. Okay, then the reflection is receiving compassionate connection. So think of a time when someone gave you the gift of compassion, offering support when you were in pain, encouragement when you were struggling, or loving acceptance when you were caught up in feelings of self-criticism. Okay, so this is an interesting exercise because usually we remember how we felt all alone and nobody came to our aid. This is asking us to think of a situation that was the opposite. Yeah, when someone offered support or somebody said a kind word. Picture this in your mind, imagining yourself receiving their kind wishes, love, and respect. Notice the feelings that emerge in you as you imagine receiving these feelings from others. Okay, now what's interesting is you remember that situation, you imagine how they treated you, you imagine the feelings that you had. That situation is not happening at that moment, but still those same feelings of feeling valued and important and belonging arise in your mind, even though the external situation for that is not happening at that moment, just by imagining it, imagining a situation when you had that. Now think of someone you know who is going through a hard time. Think of how you could offer this person support, encouragement, or acceptance, and imagine doing that. Yeah, think of how you can go up to them and say or do something kind. Okay, picture how that person would feel and how you would feel in giving this to her, him or her. Okay, so that last part, imagining how they would feel, and then imagine how you feel seeing that what you said made a difference. Yeah. So helping others has a really positive effect on us. Okay. So maybe there's time for one or two questions. Okay. Then we will dedicate.